what you're struggling with. If I should see all eyes up here, I know nobody would be on their phone right now. So I should see all eyes looking at me, especially those of you that didn't do it, which was pretty much everyone. All you need to understand, this is just a formula, just like y equals mx plus b. We knew m was the slope. We knew b was the y-intercept. It's just a formula. You just have to know what numbers go where in the formula. That's it. Math's not hard. Just subtracting 1 from a number, that's not going to be real hard. Then multiplying times a number. Again, you have a calculator, that's really easy, and even without a calculator, I hope you can all multiply. And then you would add that. You do need to remember the order of operations, though. Parentheses comes first, so this is like the PEMDAS thing, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. First, you do what's in parentheses. So if you have a number here, first you would subtract 1 from that. That's the first part of the, or first step in the math. Second step would be then to multiply by whatever number you have here that replaces the D. Then last, you add on the value that's the, whatever the A1 value. So some people did get the math wrong because they didn't do the order correctly. That would have not cost you, oh, you have an exit ticket in 2 days. So that wouldn't have cost you a big grade on the exit ticket. If you can't set it up, however, for the exit ticket, that's going to cost you a lot. I'm grading this exit ticket pretty strictly. It's not going to be one of those where I just kind of say, yeah, everybody did a good job, so everybody gets A's, B's, and C's. You're going to get the grade you get. This is not hard if you pay attention. And frankly, too many people are not paying attention. So you're not going to pay attention, then I'm going to grade it like it should be graded. There's 4 things, really 3 things you got to know. 2 of them I don't think are hard at all. They're not difficult. If you write it down in your notes, which a lot of you get, writing it down in your notes. This I would say is the easiest one. This same thing we did last class, so it's just a review. All I need to do to find out what D equals, I want to know what am I going to replace that variable with, what numbers. I just find out, well, what am I adding to get to the next number? Well, this one's pretty easy. I'm adding 3. Every time I add 3. If you are adding 3, then D is 3. That's it. Not that hard. Now, if the numbers are going down, we talked about this last class also. Like, let's say I had a different series of numbers. So 21, I'll just make it simple for me. So there's a sequence of numbers. A lot of people might look at that and say, oh, the difference is 2. They're going down by 2 every time. So D equals 2. Well, no. Because if I add 2 to 21, I don't get 19. So it has to be a negative number. If the numbers are going down in the sequence, getting smaller, then it is a negative difference. So you would say plus negative 2. Plus negative 2. And then you would just write D equals negative 2. He is. And the orange? So that's the only tricky thing you have to worry about when it comes to the variable D. What number are you adding to get to the next number? So we got one thing in the formula. We got this D value. Getting to be a little bit of an issue for me. So now I would say the next easiest term is this one. Although there is a mistake that a lot of kids are making. I don't get why, but we'll go over it. And it tells you what that is. You should have in your notes what that stands for. It's the first term in the sequence. It's just this. Just 8. Because for some reason, people keep putting this. A8. That's not right. This is saying the 8th term in the sequence. This number tells you which term in the sequence you're talking about. So if you change this to A8, you're now talking about the 8th term in the sequence, not the first term in the sequence. Like you didn't even replace that with a number at all. Like that just doesn't even make sense. You replace A1, the whole thing, with just 8. Not A sub 8. Just 8. It's just the first number. What's the first number? It's not A8, it's just 8. So those two, like I don't get how that's tough. I mean, if it is, ask me a question. Trust me, I get that I'm a math teacher. So, but I don't know what else to do to help you. I need somebody to say, well, I get confused by this or that. Like I can't help you if I don't know what you're struggling with. Because I just feel like it's a lack of focus. And maybe it's not. Maybe there's something that I'm not thinking about. All right, so the last piece, so here. So we've replaced, just based on the sequence of numbers, we've replaced two things. So if I were to ask you at this point, if I said, write a formula or an equation for this arithmetic sequence, and let's say I said explicit formula, that's the one we're talking about. If I said write an explicit formula, all I would do is replace the two things that I have right there that I know. I cannot replace a to the n yet, because that would mean they're telling me about a specific term. And we're not talking about a specific term yet. They just said write a formula. So I would write that. A1 is 8, we just said. So I get rid of this, and I replace it with 8. Again, I don't know which term I'm talking about, so I can't replace n. I'm going to talk more about n in a second, because that's another tricky thing for people so far. Then I put 3. And this will be times 3. Oh, so by the way, Aaron, and anybody else that did this, if you have a negative number, you can't just put -7, like just write -7, because technically that means subtract 7. So you'd have to write, you would have to include the multiplication symbol and then write -7 after it. Or you could put -7 in parentheses to show that you're multiplying times that. That's why you did it. It wasn't that you did it wrong. You actually just did follow the formula. So I didn't catch that until somebody else did the same thing. So that's the formula. That's the equation. That's all I can do. I can't do anything else because they haven't asked me about a term, like define a specific term. They just said write the equation. So I didn't see one person write that down. But that's what you need to do for 4, 5, and 6, if you haven't already done it. So for 4, 5, and 6, so when I walk around, you better be able to show me that, or I'm giving you 0 help on 4, 5, and 6. When I write stuff up on the board, there's a reason. I mean, I could just give you the worksheet and not say a word if I didn't want you to write anything down. So that's what you will do. Your 4, 5, and 6, when it says write the explicit equation or formula, it'll look something like that. You'll have a to the n, you'll still have n, and then you will have a number here and a number there based on the sequence of numbers. You better be able to show me your notes on that. Now, if I ask you, what is the 100th term in that sequence? Actually, I'm going to ask you for this term. Not even 100th. I want you to find the 101st term in that sequence. So everybody do that. I've pretty much given you the whole equation except for one thing. I'll give you, it shouldn't take you more than 2 minutes. If you're online, well, Kylie, it's just you. I want you to solve for that and send me an email in Canvas with your answer, please. So you would just write, since you can't really write like the 101 below the A, just write A and then 101 equals, and then whatever your answer is. No calculator. Calculator back. You do this right, the math is super easy. If the math's not super easy, then you're doing something wrong. You need to know the order of operations, which is why I'm not giving you the calculator. And frankly, they may not do, these may not work for order of operations. They might do it from left to right instead of order of operations. I think they do. I don't know. But I picked 101 to make the math easy. You done? No? I'll walk around in a minute. Come. Yeah, you need to plug in the numbers in the formula. Don't just show me a number. I can't tell what you did wrong if you just show me a number. You done? I mean, do you have an answer? One piece that you can still do that you haven't done. How can I show this? Oh, I'll show it over here. Oh,
Mr. Gill.
I'm going to show something real quick. If I have this formula, and I tell you x equals 1. If x equals 1, then x is 1 everywhere you see x in that formula, right?
Yeah.
What's the same way with that formula? Everywhere you see n, it should be the same thing. Well, I'm sorry, everywhere I replace n, it should be replaced with the same thing. So if I don't see an n here anymore, I shouldn't see an n anywhere. Because n, I know now, is 101. Oh, for those of you online, you probably couldn't see what I just did. I should have done it on my smart. I'll show you real quick what I did. I said, if I have this formula, and I'm trying to solve that, but then I tell you x equals 1, well, everywhere you see x, so right here and right here, we need to replace that with a 1. Everywhere you see x, not just one x. Hold on. I'm doing something for the recording. So we replace x everywhere we see x with the number that x equals. So what I was saying is if you see this is now what n equals, everywhere you see n, you should be replacing it with 101. That's what I did on the whiteboard that you can. Yeah, thank you. Let me get it right. You should have it right now because that was the only thing you missed. No. Oh, this is A1. Yes, you have it set up correctly. Now do the math on it. Marion missed all kind of class and came in late and he got it right.
I'm about to stop. You better stop at school.
Yeah, I'm making my way around. I'm gonna check
You
everything.
can't do this anymore. It's so stressful.
All right, you got to try what I asked you to try, Jasmine.
You want to drop out?
Same way for you. You got to try something. Too many people not trying. This is your exit ticket. I'm not going to help you. Nobody is going to help you on Wednesday. You need to be trying it now. Number one reason, you know, I got a new quote. New quote is my favorite quote. Write it up. New quote. Yep. I want to see if anybody can guess who the quote's from.
Shakespeare.
No.
SpongeBob.
It was not from Aaron.
SpongeBob.
Not from SpongeBob.
My mom.
Your mind?
Your mom.
Many
Not from my mom.
What about my mom?
Leonardo.
Coach.
Make a
The greatest
Albert Einstein.
teacher
You did.
greatest teacher failure is?
Yoda.
Yoda. Exactly.
Wait, what? What the hell? Oh, I guess. Yoda.
Yoda. Just saw last night when I was watching.
I figured it out.
It's not just failure is the greatest teacher.
That's my new favorite quote. The greatest teacher failure is.
Was that the old one?
No, it's one of the new ones. It was not the last one with Ray, but the second one with Ray, where she was about to get taught by Luke Skywalker. What it means is you learn when you fail, and I've told you that a million times.
Oh.
If you don't do anything, you don't learn. If you try and you fail, you're gonna learn from it. That's all it means. Oh yeah, I was walking around. That's right. So did you get your 6? Oh yeah. Well, it's not subtract this time. Then you'll have to. No.
Wait, no, never mind. How do we use it? I'm serious.
Down. So that
How
I
do we
gave you my
use
thing.
it?
You got it right. I got it wrong.
Can't do anything.
No.
I did give you 0. We'll go straight to 11.
Who's that? They don't know it. Like they know don't let it off.
Are we solving for E?
Something you need to replace. You should know what to replace this in with and that in.
We're just gonna work hard. Mr. Gill, I got it now.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I already gave you what that number is. That number is 8.
This one?
Like I said right here, A1 is 8. Because it's the first term. The first term is A1. So you would always replace it. Right, have a seat, please. We're not doing the socializing thing today. Too many people that you're not getting this. You need 12 people out. There you go.
Yeah. Wait, did I have to solve it?
You just multiply.
So what you try, I mean, you can pay attention when I go through it.
Bro, I need a
We
hard.
got a lot of people still struggling with this. Again, you may want to put some time into watching this video again, because your exit ticket grades are going to be rough. That's not how you want to start out the quarter.
Yeah, it's not a good way to start a quarter.
When you read that.
Yeah, good. Few people will do all right.
So you see the green? Right there, explain how it's.
Yeah, I already gave you the formula. Some of you changed this. I already gave you everything you needed except for those two things. What were you doing?
Replace the number. We're doing A1.
Well, we are, but it uses this same formula. You don't change the 8 and the 3 and the subtract 1. All you need to do is change the n, which I gave you what n equals by putting the 101.
Hold on.
Like if n was there, Shayla, real quick, if n was there, well now it's gone. That means n equals 101. I just replaced them. But if n is 101, then that means this n is also 101. Then you have all numbers on the right, now you can solve it out.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Okay, 101.
Oh,
I did it.
hard.
Right.
I was confused.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna wrap this one up for you. Naya, phones up, please. Yeah, we don't need a calculator. Phones up. If you need a calculator, I got them up here anyway. So I can't police and see when people are doing the right things and the wrong things on phones. So no phones. So I'm gonna wrap this one up for you, and then you're gonna have another chance to do this worksheet and get some points on it, since a lot of you didn't do very well in first grade. So Miss Hodes, real quick, let me take over because I can't yell over people right now. So Last time I give you an example, and you're about to take your shot at getting some more points, some points for some of you. A101 means I want to find the 101st term. That's what that whole thing means. They're not separate. It just means this is going to be the 101st term after I do the math. So if I carried these numbers out, well, I'll have to scroll back down. If I kept going with these numbers, because it's a sequence, it goes on forever. I'm at the 4th term right there. If I kept adding 3 over and over and over and over and over again, until eventually I got to the 101st term way out here, that's what I'm finding out, what number that would be without having to actually add 3 over and over and over and over and over. And I just use the formula. I'd already given you the first term, which is what, again, this whole thing goes together. It's not separate. A and the 1 are not separate. This is just saying what number is the first term in the sequence. Well, 8 is the first term in the sequence. That's where I got that from. So I would write that number down again because the formula hasn't changed. My sequence hasn't changed. 8. A lot of you changed that number for some reason. It's still 8. The first term in that sequence is still 8. I didn't give you a different sequence of numbers. All right, so the next part, this is the biggest thing that throws people off, and this is the shortest version of the answer I can give you. Whatever is here goes here. Because it's in. It's the same thing in both spots. If it's a variable, like here, if we don't have a number yet, then it'll be in both spots. If we have a number for it here, then that same number goes there. It will always be the same thing. Always. Always, always, always. No exceptions. Just kind of like when we plugged in 1 for x, we would plug in, I didn't really finish it, we would plug in 1 in every spot. If x equals 1, then that's 1 plus 3 plus 1 plus 4. Whatever the variable is, or whatever the number is, you plug it in every single spot for that variable. Now we just have subtract 1, because that part of the formula is always going to be subtract 1. And then now we put d, which is the difference, because it's going up by 3. And that's your formula. That's your equation. Now you just have to solve the right side out. So to solve it out, again, make sure you do parentheses first. So 101 subtract 1 is what? 100. That's why I chose 101 to make the math easy. So that's 100. Just remember that's times 3. If it was a negative number, it would be times the negative number, whatever that negative number would be. So you do multiplication next. So 3 times 100 is what? 300. And then 300 plus 8, 308. So now, work on the worksheet. It's your second chance to get some points. I'm going to give you 10 minutes. So till a couple minutes after the 8. Yeah, if you're absolutely done, I'll come around and grab it in a second. So again, you do 1 through 3 exactly like it says on the paper. 4, 5, and 6. Well, just whatever it says on 1 through 3 up there. 4, 5, and 6. You do not have to do the recursive. You only do the explicit formula. Basically, you only do this. I'm sorry, this. That's the only formula you have to do, that one. And then after those, you skip all the way to 11. You don't do 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, oh, I guess I should help you with 11. I said I was going to do that. No, you need that in a minute, so keep that. On number 11, they're talking about a bank account. If you're not familiar with how a bank account works, so again, Ms. Oates, real quick, I need everybody's attention on this, because I'm only doing this once. If you have a bank account, I guess I'll do like this. This gentleman is going in, I think it's a gentleman. He's depositing to start his bank account. He's putting $400 in. So day 1, putting in $400 when he first goes in and opens it. he's in, or she, I can't remember, gonna try to put in, or going to put in, we'll say, $25 every month. So if I add 25 every month, I wind up creating a sequence that is an arithmetic sequence, because I'm adding the same number every time. We said that's what an arithmetic sequence is, adding the same number every time. So now you have a sequence of numbers where you can do what they ask you to do. Oh. Hold on just a second. I'm not sure. What did you say?
I was supposed to be subtracting that one.
No, because he's adding money into the account.
Oh, that's the
He's saving money. He's increasing the amount of money he's saving. If he were withdrawing money every month, then yeah, you'd be subtracting. But he's adding money. I'm pretty sure he's adding. And then so you need to write the formula. So the same thing we just did. It'll still have the n in it, because when you first write the formula, they didn't tell you to solve for anything specific yet. So first you write the formula, a to the n equals, and then fill in the rest. Then they ask you how much money would he or she have after 12 months. So you'd be solving for a sub 12, like the 12th term. Technically, you might argue it's the 13th term, not the 12th term, but I'm not going to worry about that. So everybody should be able to do all of the ones on the worksheet you're supposed to do now. If you did not grab one of these from this packet, this is what we're doing after you finish that worksheet. This is the one we're doing right now. Take that one.
So what's that?
What is 400 represent? What does 400 represent? And in the sequence, what is 400?
1.
So which one does it stand for?
It stands for N, right?
No. 400? Will you guys take notes, please?
400.
Like somebody write this down. A1 is the first term in the sequence. Always. Like, there's never a day. Like, I don't get how that's hard. This first number is always A1. Always. There's no exception to that. I don't get how that's hard.
I have 3.
Like, are you guys writing it down? Like, literally, if you just wrote a sequence of numbers and you wrote for that first number, A1 is always the first number. I don't know how you can miss that. I just don't think you guys write anything down. And the reason I don't think that is because I watch and you don't write anything down. A1 is always the first number. So in the formula, where you see A1, you'll always put the first number. Yeah. Passionate about my job. Good? Wait. Well, you need to fill in the values. You're filling in the values on 4, 5, and 6 from the sequence of numbers they give you. You're not just writing the formula with all variables in it. You're filling in the numbers that you can fill in. So you should know what the A1 term is. You should know what the D is.
You write this down? Focus now.
You done? For a whole week.
Yeah,
Impressive.
wait.
Oh, that one I'm not collecting. We were going to do something else with that one. I just killed trees on that.
Yeah, I think it's 12 on the side.
What are you doing?
All right.
What are you doing?
This
What are you doing,
I'm writing
bro?
here.
Good. Bro, I am stuck.
You technically want to.
Oh, I didn't.
And then you just, now when they ask you to solve, Well, what term are they asking you to solve? What are they asking you to find? You're subtracting. You don't subtract. Oh, okay. Yeah, the other one was-
Also,
Oh,
I
wait.
written down the explicit formulas.
Did I do this wrong or right?
Oh, okay, so just, now this is a -7, you're saying now. Times -7, and then you also have that B value wrong.
Your next one is different.
That is set up correctly, so that would be, well, technically this would still be in when you write the formula. Then, when you go to solve and say A12, because this should always be the same as that.
So I just got changed.
So, well, you're gonna do both. In one, you'll have A to the N, and you'll have N. Then below that, you'll have A12, and then you'll have the 12 there. And that's when you actually solve it out.
Do you have a term factor that you want them to?
Well, it says that in Word document.
What is that from?
So again, you need to like.
Oh, for that, that's from N minus 1.
This is the formula.
You're
I
lucky.
don't know what it is.
Oh, figure it out.
I want you to go on this formula right now without any numbers.
And then minus
Where
one.
you plug them in together.
Hey, Aaron, you know the answer for like number 1?
Yeah.
Well, you're telling me, is this, for each one, is it an arithmetic sequence? Is there a
Okay, now I have to
pattern?
solve this
If
out.
there is, then you need to tell me what the pattern is. Alright, so, we know, and now we're trying to find a what? What would the n be? A sub.
Honestly, I'm prepared. I hate doing what's 11 times 25.
What are they asking? Well, there you go, so we're trying to find a.
I got it. So,
Hit your brain, so you just write 8, and
I'm having a
that's
time.
5.
it's, now write the 12.
Joe, it's like 2 1s together. It's 2 5.
I don't care. I'm getting this 5.
I don't mind you having it from this one. So now, we would write equals, what is the first term?
I want to be a shut.
No, that's 400. Now you got 400. That's the first term. It'll always be first term. Whatever you're starting the always be the first thing you're writing.
See, it's part of math.
Now, what if you write plus and then parentheses? No, I want you to write, erase all of that and write the parentheses first.
Stupid, you know that?
Help me.
Let me say something.
What's 11?
I don't care. I don't want
What
to
is
hear
the
it. Help
end
me.
value for it? We just need to figure out, what do we replace that?
9.
No, just sit up there,
No.
it's always the same number as this one. Well, yeah, if n was here.
Just help me.
It'll always be.
I'm gonna cry.
I'm trying to focus on
So now we got that.
400.
What is the D? What's?
Plus 275.
That's just A and what's the other N? So what's 11 times 25? Is there a number for A or A N? Of like Yes, zero, yes. Big part is N.
Okay. Okay, on that point. It's like this.
Let's do this. You go to that.
That?
So 12, 13, 11, 11, 5, 25 plus 4.
Oh, that was, I don't think. I'll start.
What's the first?
Oh, he put the last one.
Yeah, what you doing over there, bud?
It's the first day, Joe.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave me.
So let's see how you did. So this is arithmetic because there's a plus 4. That one's not. No, you got math.
We don't know what number the ones.
That's as long as you get the concept. Pattern, yes, you can use basically the plus. Now let me see your plus. So 9 is the first term. That should be a no-brainer. You should always, at the bare minimum.
Oh, it's like a 0, you put a 0.
Whatever the first one is, the first thing you're gonna write is
Sleeping is not allowed.
on the right side. Whatever the difference is, whatever the difference is the last thing that you're writing. 0.75. That is the bare minimum.
Just
Get that right.
mess up his ways.
So now all you need to know is, okay, what is they ask you to solve for a specific term?
10 times 25, just add 0 to 25.
I said no sleep in the class.
That's what will go there. Whatever you're solving for, whatever
And then you
term
find the common
number.
difference. So what's-
If I said 100 first term, you would write 100 first term. Just remember, it's always gonna be the same number. This one is a bank account. They put in $400 a month. Then every week they get back and they're adding
Oh
$75.
my God.
So they still have their 400,
Oh my God.
and they added 25 more. So that's the second number you would write.
Just 3 things, you can write 3 things from a set of.
Yep.
I wish I
So it's 500 or what?
And this is the.
I wish I could read.
So then your third one would be 425 plus 25, so what would that be? So then you just, that's really all you need, is just read. So now you should be able to write this equation just like you did on these.
What's the common difference? What's
Yeah,
the
just like I did here, you should be able to write this equation. So this is not a 400 going over this, it's just the first number.
Look at that.
It's
You just went over that, I'm sorry.
He's done this. So I want you to fix that real quick. Do you understand it now? Just remember, all you gotta know is.
He got that really like nasty ear from it and he started coughing.
You don't have to okay, so you got a 9. That's 9.
He started choking on the air. He was laughing.
So this is your plan 6. All you have to be able to do is find out what the first term is, give it to me. So the solution is really make it sound good. And then
I take it back to that.
now, this one's a little trickier. If you notice.
They were freaking out. Oh my God.
You said something specific after you're getting close. Well, what, you tell me what you need to do.
She don't do that wrong. She's doing this in the house.
I wasn't even doing this.
If I had a job,
I was going to. Why is there a phone out?
he started choking on it, he kept laughing.
Put your phone up. I really have a submission with you in
You
that.
better not.
Is there no calculator? Is it?
Yeah, you also choke on your too, and this
I've
returns
got
to blackjack.
calculators. You need a calculator. I think Mariah is still out, so she's not back there.
She's like walking back and forth.
Always does that.
How do I find the common difference?
All right, go ahead and put your name on it. That's just the amount we're adding every time. So what are you adding every time on that? Now you're putting always what we're looking
I was like, yo, I
for.
want
So what are we trying to find? A what?
Sleep in his house when you go. What
Term
term
is
is
it?
Oh, you know what?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, wait.
That's what Molly won.
Yeah, mom's about to, I got my.
So it'd be
room, too.
A12.
Down my house.
Whatever number goes here, so if it's A12, that number goes there. Always the same.
You can't call a system up.
Maureen, just actually tell you what, you can go and say it's an emergency, you go and say you're looking for a pass, you have a female.
That's one.
I was like, bro, he passed out, shouting about it. He was too. I was the I took a shower. I was kind of.
Okay. Ready to, what's this formula?
After that, we left the person that was
Okay, so what's your first term?
So I know you're coming from, were you?
Food.
Yeah.
Plus,
I don't remember.
Oh, it's
what's your first term?
I have no idea what you're running in another state, so.
Yeah.
There you are. This is,
Yeah, I'm gonna-
you're gonna lose your,
We were all.
actually, yeah, you just did. Because that's the third or fourth time you've come back with food.
Yes, sir.
So don't ask me for a while.
High food, bro.
2 weeks.
Oh my God, dude, that's like-
I don't know, we'll see what kind of, you better wait till I'm in a good mood.
Better than they do.
You know
I'm
what
in a bad
practice
mood,
you're
you can try. What's that?
You know what practice
Ends? No, I have no idea what ends.
Usually.
Yeah, that gives you time to change
He sat
stuff.
close to me.
Alright, put your name on these, I'm gonna collect them.
I was gonna call.
Again, make sure you have this packet. If you haven't gotten that packet, it's the only one with a staple in it today, come grab it.
Yeah, you kind of were. Your head snapped a couple times. You're taking, no, I'm being so, I'm being so. Just sitting there and
What have you been
you
doing all
snap
day?
your hand and go like this and you feel like it's on top.
Well, I mean, that's not excusable, but you can sit
We're
here.
not Shane, you can't.
Yeah, this was from
Shane
the
doesn't
other
even
day.
turn out all day. Shane,
I should put your name on that, that'll be your second grade for that one. Not a strong start to the quarter.
It's a lot more expensive.
No.
Yes, that one would be. You want to? So when you do the formula,
No, that's.
just write C as negative.
Well, when you do it,
Uh,
you make sure
grab that
that
real
you
quick,
throw up.
please.
And you
Name on
like
it
sports,
together.
you throw up. I'm like,
Huh?
that's what you're on, so I don't know.
That one will be, yeah. That one. I don't need other.
We can do it.
We're about to do the rest of that.
Come to do it once a month or something like that.
Alright,
It can't be
grab
all.
that, please.
Summertime, we do
You don't
this
need to do
once,
anything.
summer.
Alright, let me grab your name on it.
No, I
You got everything
Ready
else.
to roll.
I already do that often, bro.
I just feel
I
like.
know it hurts. Myself, I do. I was getting tired of it. When I other people are wrong, I do my foolish stuff. I want to do with friends. When I'm by myself, like, nah, I don't want to do it. So, of course,
Yeah.
it's why I don't want to do it with myself. I want to do it with friends. Bro, I try to get that.
Oh, that's good. I was like, where's it?
That's
funny.
I'm trying to get him in shape.
Oh my god, no. All the red
Trying to get him in
shit.
shape to do it so people are no, they don't want to go. Bro, if y'all want to walk around that stage,
You go finish?
No, you know all this.
Once you plug all the numbers in your solve, that's it, you're done.
Bro, we're gonna do this next time. For me, and we're gonna do it.
Right thing.
Move around.
Yeah, thank you for trying to help him.
I'm
Somebody that.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not trying to have my own. Like, my own.
I got your.
I'm like 90 seconds.
There we go.
No, it's on a card. I can't take it off.
Alright, come on.
Yeah.
Gee, it's one of the gift cards.
You already have the, I got yours already.
Man, if I had a card like that, bro, I'd be having shit daily from you.
Alright, so get your packet out that you should have grabbed. Fernando, sit down. The one you should have grabbed from up here that I just said a second ago. If you haven't grabbed this yet, come get it now.
Yours is different. Yours is, I like yours.
I mean, my people did not do that 4
I like
times
yours
at least. At least.
Yours lasts a while.
Oh, wow.
Yours at least like 5 hours, 6 hours long.
I'm over here like this.
You've been stubborn. I pushed you through like to keep like one, but then.
Yeah, I just want to read.
Alright, so what you're gonna do on this sheet is not what it says to do. You're doing something different.
Oh, I already have it.
I don't think you guys grabbed, no.
Can you, how do I do this thing?
Actually easier than what it says.
Teacher, they score what?
I'm gonna give you the super short version of the lesson.
I only did one.
Oh, you're in a lot.
One
Teacher.
Yes.
Soon as those other two get back.
He didn't even check.
You wish.
I'm still busy.
You struggle.
Did I get it?
I did learn something.
Hold up! You guys are just trying to get in trouble in this class. Not doing work.
I like math, but when I'm listening.
Alright, so, no, this is what you're about to do in, it'll take about 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, 2 minutes for all of these.
It's kind of a review. So, we talked about slope. Shh, I need zero noise. Zero noise. Because I'm not answering any questions on this. You don't get what I'm about to do, that's your shot. Not hard. If we have a graph, and we have lines on the graph, we talked about equations of the line first, and in the equation, in one of the types of equations, we had the slope. And we said the slope is like a measure kind of how steep the line is and what angle it's slanted at. And then see, if one more person comes back with something, I'm writing you a referral. When you go out to the restroom, that is not a snack break. Not. Let's do that to remind me. So this class is about to go on lockdown too. It'd be one thing if we did our work, but people showed up. Maybe 2 people had anything done on that out of a whole class. If I have a line that slopes from left to right, slopes up. The definition of sloping up means if you're standing on the left side of the line, and if you walk that line, you're going uphill. So I'm going uphill on that line. I'm really going uphill on this line. And I'm really going uphill on this line. It's like almost straight uphill on that line. If you are walking up from left to right, we said that is a positive slope. Hopefully you remember that. If we have a line, let me do a whole new graph so it's not confusing. Again, numbers don't even matter. I don't have to put in what the numbers are because it's just the direction the line slopes at. That's already pretty steep. If I'm on the left side of the line, and when I walk that line, I walk down, that is a negative slope. No exceptions to these 2 things. If you have a vertical line, that's different, and a horizontal line, like if you're not walking up or down, that's different. You don't run into that on the sheet you're about to do. So that is a negative slope. We've done this before. You actually did this in 8th grade. On your sheet, you're not writing an equation. All you're going to do in the little space they provide next to each graph, you're going to write positive or negative. Is the slope of that line positive? And you could just write a positive sign and a negative sign. You don't even have to write the word. So next to each one of those graphs should take you about a minute.
Like this?
You're writing positive or negative. Like that. Perfect. I mean, I didn't check to see if they were right or not. Assuming you got them all right. Well, I just totally said that's not what you're doing. Can you explain to him, please? He's supposed to be just writing as a positive, does his line have a positive, just a positive sign or a negative sign?
Yeah, but he knew that was negative.
So I'll give you like another 30 seconds. All you gotta do is look at the line and imagine if I'm standing on the left side of that line, am I going up or down if I walk along the line? If you're walking down, it's negative slope. If you're walking up, it's positive slope. So if I'm on the left side of this line, I'm walking up or down. That way. All right. It's amazing how easy people say this is.
Positive or negative? It's just a
You
positive or
like
negative.
the word, you just like write the sign.
Easy.
No, right?
Yeah, that's right, yes.
This way, coming from this side is going down. So you have to go for positive or negative. Negative. I'll just put it in.
All right, seem to be good.
Yeah, I got negative, positive.
So if I'm on the left side of this line, right here, am I walking down or up?
Number 7 doesn't belong to me.
Down is negative. Down, down, all be negative. These should be positive, going up.
Hey, Aaron, what's the answer for number 2?
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mine's different.
they are different.
On the left side is going down.
There are 4 different versions, so you probably don't have the one your person next to you.
Right side is going down.
Yes, so it's not the same.
That's,
Somehow you guys got the same one.
don't know what it's supposed to
Negative, negative, positive, positive, negative, good. These big, right? Yeah, she still can.
I'm sorry.
So you got it.
Negative,
Positive or negative?
negative. I'm not collecting you.
Or is that 3/4?
Oh, no.
You can view mine as regular. You see mine?
Oh man, when I give you these, it's something good. Negative, good. Yeah, you're good. Good job.
Going left and going down the right.
Ha ha ha.
Right and going left is positive.
Alright, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Here.
That's going left.
I'm not collecting it, that's all.
That's my.
Alright, so. So, everybody have a seat. Fernando, why do you keep getting up out of your seat?
Because you can't stay in my seat.
Well, I'm gonna send you that IC, and you'll stay in your seat in IC. If you can't stay in it in here, I'll find you somewhere where you can stay. So, in real life, this is about to get as real world as you get, what we're about to do. Now, you may not do it, but what's called scatter plots is, it only comes from real life. There's no like, make-believe usage of this. I mean, it's only because there is real data in the world. It comes from data, real data. So for example, if you work for a company that does sales, which every single company does, because you got to be able to make money and you got to sell something to make money, they're going to track how much money they make. They're going to track 2 things. how much I sell and how much money did I make from what I sell. So as you could probably guess, I hope you can guess this, as you sell more stuff, you make more money. Go figure. I know, great. Although I will tell you, that is not always true. Yeah. If you're talking about
Different
profit,
ranges too.
you're talking about actually making a profit. Because if each item costs you more to make than you're selling it for, then you actually lose more money the more you sell. Go figure that. So, if they are tracking data, and they may compare like years and years and years and years of data, and they decide how much they sold, they'll look like little points like that on the graph.
Oh.
So when they sell this amount, they make this much money. When they sell this amount, they make this much money. So this is how much they sell, and then over here would correlate with how much money they made on that. Now, does that look like there's maybe sort of a pattern to that? Everybody hopefully see that those are kind of like all going in the same direction. So what you would then do is draw, place this way. You draw, and if you look at your sheet, it says trend line on the packet sheet. So the very first page, it says trend line, I think over here somewhere. You in 8th grade actually learned it as, well, this is what I taught it as, what our book taught it as.
I learned that stuff here online, and I did not do
Man, I have to teach you to speak fluent English. I don't know. I don't speak English. I can hear good.
So you learned it in 8th grade as line of best fit. It also could be called a regression line. There's different names for it. The point is, you're just estimating a line that would go through the middle of the data. Not through the middle of the data like that. You don't cut it in half. You go through the middle of the line, or the middle of the data from the left side all the way up through the right side. That is your estimate of what you would make depending on how much you sold. So for example, if we had numbers down here, and these would be in like the thousands or tens of thousands or something like that, you wouldn't really just be tracking 40, 50, 60. Unless you have your own business, you might. And then over here, normally these are bigger numbers over here because you have more money than the, unless you're selling really tiny, small, cheap products, which some people do, I guess. So you would say, well, if I sell 40 units or 40,000 or whatever, how much would I expect to make? Well, I go up to the line, 40 units is here. I come over to my money line, my y-axis basically. I'd expect to make like $420,000. That's how you estimate a number based on a trend line or a line of best fit. So they take all their historical data that they've collected over years and years and years and years and years. They plot it. They come up with a line. Actually, computers come up with it really, but. And then they say, okay, well, if we do this again this year, this is how much money we'll make. And it's not just with money making. I mean, this comes into play all the time. Data. Companies love data. I guarantee you, if you love sports, when they're giving you all those stats and stuff, and they're estimating and doing this and that, it's coming from historical data. Same exact thing. What would the slope of that line be? Positive or negative? What would the slope of that line be? Positive or negative? You should all know that. So when we talk about the data itself, if it slopes up, we say there is a positive association. Or you might hear it, I think they also use positive correlation, which I don't like because it's not completely accurate. You don't know that there's a correlation. Correlation means something totally different. Association, yeah. Correlation, not necessarily. Sometimes it's both, but not always. So if it's sloping up, that means and this is going to be your exit ticket. So if anybody misses these, I don't know what to do with you. Like, all you got to know is if the data is sloping up, the answer is going to be positive association. And then what do you think it's going to be if it's sloping down? Somebody already said that. So if we have data that looks like this, it's not always a bad graph just because it goes down. Because you don't know what they're measuring yet.
They can have something under there.
It could be you could be tracking your withdrawals, possibly. You could be tracking something that's supposed to get lower as you go along. So if you see data sloping down, guess what that is?
Negative. Oh, it's a Gill.
There you go. That would be a negative association or a correlation.
Mr. Gill, is it on no correlation? It's like nothing or just like straight?
I'm about to show that one, but yeah, it looks like you're like, what is that, John? So the last one you need to know, and this is almost the whole lesson for the sheet you have to do. If you see data that looks like this, if you see data that looks like that, and you're trying to figure out, well, what's the pattern? Like, where would I put a line that goes through the middle of that stuff? And you can't figure it out, there's no association. Now, one more quick thing, and this is not going to be on your exit ticket, and we might get to it, we might not, I don't know if they get into this detail. The closer together the dots are, the stronger the association. So like if I did two more little graphs, the stronger the association. So here, we see those dots are like really close together, like they really look like a line. Here though, those dots are a little more spread out. Now they still look like they're going up, but they're not nearly as tightly condensed as the other one. That means this has a stronger association than this. It just means that the Y value is way more dependent on the X value. Like if you did sales is going to be really closely correlated with how much you sold. That just makes sense. So now what I want you to do is look at your first page of the handout. Draw in for the one that says positive correlation, draw in an example. So you would just be drawing in data that has a pattern that slants up. Then draw in for no correlation. Draw in an example for that. So basically it'd just be a random pattern, like there's no pattern to it. For number 2, where it says there's a blank kind of in the middle where there's a 2 there, write the definition of negative correlation. You can kind of use the definition of the positive correlation to write that. And that's really all you have to do on the first page. I'm going to let you keep that page for the exit ticket, so make sure you fill it out. And then you can do all of the second page now. Remember, when you go to estimate, like if they ask you to estimate an answer or a number, you just take the value on the x-axis. So again, if I wanted to know, well, how much would I make if I sold 30 units? Well, I find 30 units on the x-axis. I go up to the line, and then I come over, and I would make about 300 or 300,000 is more likely what it would be. So I go from the x value to the line, and then from the line to the y value to give me my estimate. And that's all you have to do on that second sheet. It's not hard stuff. That'll be your exit ticket. I mean, something like that will be your exit ticket on Wednesday. So we'll do, your exit ticket will be based on sequences, which is what we did for most